The scream tore through the night, raw and jagged, as if the world itself had split open. Eli stood frozen in the doorway of the old Tennessee farmhouse, his heart hammering, the words he'd just spoken hanging like smoke in the air. "I'm gay," he'd said, and now his father's fist was raised, his mother's eyes wide with horror, and his twin brother, Caleb, stood silent, a shadow in the corner. It was 2015, and the world outside their small town of Willow Creek was changing. Marriage equality had just swept the nation, but inside these walls, time stood still. Eli and Caleb, identical twins, had been inseparable since birth, their lives woven together like threads in a single tapestry. But where Caleb shone, a rising country music star with a voice that could break hearts, Eli had always been the quieter one, the thinker, the one who felt the world too deeply. That night, everything unraveled. Eli's confession wasn't planned. It spilled out after years of silence, a truth he could no longer cage. He was 22, and the weight of hiding who he was had grown heavier than the love he still held for his family. He'd hoped, foolishly, perhaps, that they'd understand, that the bond of blood would outweigh their small-town beliefs. But his father, Pastor John, a man whose sermons thundered with fire and brimstone, saw only sin. "You're no son of mine," he spat, his voice trembling with rage. His mother, Clara, wept, clutching her Bible like a shield. And Caleb, whose face mirrored Eli's own, said nothing, his eyes fixed on the floor. By morning, Eli was gone, his belongings stuffed into a duffel bag, his name erased from the family's prayers. He hitchhiked west, landing in San Francisco, a city that pulsed with freedom and possibility. There, in a cramped apartment above a coffee shop, he began to rebuild. He found work as a barista, made friends who didn't flinch when he mentioned his truth, and met Noah, a painter with a laugh like sunlight. For the first time, Eli felt whole, his heart no longer a secret to be buried. But back in Willow Creek, Caleb's star was rising. His debut album, Tennessee Soul, climbed the charts, its raw lyrics about love and loss resonating with millions. Fans adored his boyish charm, his tousled blonde hair, his voice that carried the ache of the South. Yet behind the spotlight, Caleb was haunted. He'd let Eli go without a word, too afraid to stand against their father's wrath. Guilt gnawed at him, a constant companion as he strummed his guitar under stadium lights. Eli followed Caleb's success from afar, pride warring with pain. He'd watch grainy YouTube clips of Caleb's concerts, searching for traces of the brother he'd lost. Sometimes he'd catch a lyric that felt too familiar, as if Caleb were singing to him, an apology woven into melody. But no call came, no letter, no sign that Caleb wanted to mend what was broken. One night, in a San Francisco bar, Eli saw Caleb's face on a TV screen, announcing a nationwide tour. The final stop, San Francisco. Eli's heart lurched. Would Caleb reach out? Could they rebuild what was shattered? Noah, sensing Eli's turmoil, took his hand. "You don't owe him anything," Noah said, his voice steady. "But if you want to see him, I'll be right there with you." Eli didn't sleep that night. He sat by the window, staring at the city lights, memories flooding back, summers by the lake, he and Caleb sneaking beers, laughing until dawn. They'd been two halves of a whole, until the world decided one half was worth more. Now, with Caleb's tour looming, Eli faced a choice: confront the past or let it stay buried. As the days ticked down to the concert, Eli's resolve hardened. He'd go, not for Caleb, but for himself, to prove he was more than the shame his family had branded him. He bought a ticket, his hands shaking as he clicked purchase. The night of the concert, he stood in the crowd, Noah by his side, watching Caleb take the stage. The lights dimmed, the guitar strummed, and Caleb's voice filled the air, raw and aching. Elias Diaz Titaneth. This was his brother, his mirror, his ghost. The roar of the crowd was deafening, but to Eli, it was just noise, a wall between him and the brother he hadn't seen in 3 years. Caleb stood under the spotlight, his white Stetson gleaming, his fingers dancing over the guitar strings. Every note felt like a thread pulling Eli back to Willow Creek, to the nights they'd spent dreaming of futures that no longer aligned. Eli's ticket had landed him close to the stage, close enough to see the sweat on Caleb's brow, the flicker of something, regret, in his eyes. Noah squeezed Eli's hand, grounding him. "You okay?" he whispered. Eli nodded, though his heart raced. He wasn't here to reconcile, he told himself. He was here to close a chapter, to face Caleb, and walk away whole. Backstage, Caleb was unraveling. He'd seen Eli in the crowd, a face so like his own it stole his breath. His manager, Trish, noticed his distraction. "Focus, kid," she barked, adjusting his mic. But Caleb couldn't shake the image of Eli, standing there with a man by his side, looking both familiar and foreign. Guilt, long buried, clawed its way up. He'd let Eli be cast out, too afraid to challenge their father's verdict. Now, with Eli so close, Caleb felt the weight of that silence. The set ended, and the crowd screamed for an encore. Caleb hesitated, then whispered to Trish, "I need a minute." He slipped off stage, his heart pounding, and found a quiet corner. There, he pulled out his phone and typed a message to Eli's old number, unsure if it still worked. "I saw you. Can we talk?" He hit send, his hands trembling. Eli's phone buzzed as he and Noah left the venue. He stared at the screen, Caleb's name glowing like a ghost. Noah raised an eyebrow. "You don't have to answer," he said. But Eli's fingers moved before his mind could catch up. "Where?" He replied. Moments later, a response. Backstage door. 10 minutes. The meeting was tense, the air thick with unspoken words. Caleb stood by the door, his hat in his hands, looking smaller than the star he'd become. "Eli," he said, his voice breaking. "I am sorry." Eli wanted to believe him, but the hurt ran deep. "You didn't say a word when Dad threw me out," Eli said, his voice steady but sharp. "You let me go." Caleb's eyes glistened. "I was scared. Daddy's had a hold on me, on all of us. But I've regretted it every day." He stepped closer, his voice low. "You're my brother, Eli. I should have fought for you." Eli wanted to lash out, to unload years of pain, but something in Caleb's face stopped him. It was the same face he saw in the mirror, older now, etched with its own scars. "Why now?" Eli asked. Caleb swallowed hard. "Because I'm tired of pretending. Your truth made me face mine. I'm not who they want me to be either." The revelation hit Eli like a freight train. Caleb, the golden boy, the preacher's pride, was carrying his own secret. Before Eli could respond, a shout interrupted them. Trish, calling Caleb back for a meet and greet. "I have to go," Caleb said, his voice urgent. "But please, meet me tomorrow. The lake by the old hotel. Noon." Eli watched him disappear into the chaos of the tour, his mind reeling. Noah, quiet until now, spoke softly. "You don't have to go tomorrow. But if you do, I'm with you." Eli nodded, his heart a tangle of hope and fear. Could Caleb be trusted? Was this a chance to heal, or another wound waiting to open? The next day, Eli and Noah arrived at the lake, a quiet spot outside the city. Caleb was already there, alone, his tour bus parked nearby. He looked nervous, his usual confidence gone. "I didn't sleep," Caleb admitted, kicking at the dirt. "I kept thinking about what I should have said back then." Eli crossed his arms, wary. "So say it now." Caleb took a deep breath. "I'm gay too, Eli. I've known since we were kids. But Dad, the church, I couldn't face it. So I'll let you take the fall." The words hung heavy, a confession that shifted the ground beneath them. Eli's anger flared, but beneath it was a flicker of understanding. They'd both been trapped, just in different ways. The lake shimmered under the midday sun, its surface a mirror for the storm brewing in Eli's chest. Caleb's confession echoed in his mind, each word a stone dropped into still water, rippling outward. Noah stood a few paces back, giving the twins space but watching closely, his presence a quiet anchor. Eli's voice was low, almost a growl. "You knew. All this time, you knew, and you let me burn for it." Caleb flinched, his hands twisting the brim of his hat. "I was a coward," he said. "I thought if I stayed quiet, followed Dad's rules, I could keep the family together. Keep us together." "Together?" Eli laughed, bitter and sharp. "You let them call me a shame, Caleb. You let them erase me." He stepped closer, his eyes blazing. "You're a star now, living your dream, while I had to start over with nothing. And you're telling me you were hiding the same truth." Caleb's shoulders sagged. "My dream? You think this is a dream? Every song I sing, every smile I fake, it's a lie. I'm trapped, Eli. Dad controls everything. My music, my image, my life. If I came out, he'd destroy me." His voice cracked. "But seeing you last night, you're free. You're living your truth. I want that." Eli's anger faltered, caught off guard by Caleb's vulnerability. He glanced at Noah, whose steady gaze reminded him of the life he'd built, the love he'd found. "Freedom comes at a cost," Eli said. "I lost you. I lost them. Are you ready to pay that price?" Caleb didn't answer right away. He looked out at the lake, his face a map of conflict. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I want to try. For you. For me." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled photo. Eli and Caleb at 16, grinning by this very lake, their arms slung around each other. "I kept this. It's all I had left of us." Elias tightened it. He took the photo, his fingers brushing the faded edges. Memories flooded back. Laughter, shared secrets, the unbreakable bond of twins. But the past couldn't erase the present. "What do you want, Caleb?" he asked. "Forgiveness? A fresh start? Because I don't know if I can give you either." "I want my brother back," Caleb said, his voice raw. "I want to be honest for once. But I need your help." I don't know how to do this alone. Eli studied him, searching for the boy he'd once known. Was this real, or just another performance? Before Eli could respond, a car pulled up, Pastor John's old pickup, dust billowing behind it. Eli's stomach dropped. Caleb paled. He wasn't supposed to know I was here, Caleb whispered. The truck door slammed, and their father strode toward them, his face a mask of fury. Eli, John barked, ignoring Noah. You've got no business here. His gaze shifted to Caleb. And you sneaking off? You think you can defy me? Caleb shrank, his bravado gone. Eli stepped forward, his voice steady. He's not your puppet, Dad. Neither am I. John's eyes narrowed. You're a disgrace, Eli. And now you're dragging your brother down with you. He grabbed Caleb's arm, pulling him toward the truck. Caleb resisted, his voice shaking. Dad, stop. I need to do this. John's grip tightened. You'll do what I say, boy, or you'll lose everything. Noah moved closer, his presence a quiet warning. Eli's heart pounded, but he refused to back down. Let him go, Dad, he said, or you'll lose him anyway. For a moment, the air was electric, a standoff between past and present. Then Caleb yanked free, stumbling toward Eli. I'm done hiding, he said, his voice trembling but resolute. John's face twisted with rage, but he didn't move. You're choosing him over your family? He spat. Caleb met his gaze, tears in his eyes. I'm choosing myself. John climbed into his truck and sped off, leaving a cloud of dust and silence in his wake. Eli and Caleb stood side by side, the weight of the moment settling over them. What now? Eli asked, his voice soft. Caleb looked at him, a faint smile breaking through. Now we figured out. Together. The dust from their father's truck still hung in the air as Eli and Caleb stood by the lake, the silence between them heavy but no longer hostile. Noah, sensing the shift, gave Eli a nod and stepped back to give the twins space. For the first time in years, Eli felt a spark of the bond they'd once shared, fragile but real. Caleb broke the silence. I meant what I said. I'm done hiding, but I don't know where to start. His voice was raw, stripped of the polish he wore on stage. Eli studied him, the weight of their shared history pressing down. Start with the truth, Eli said. Not just to me, but to yourself. To the world. Caleb laughed, a hollow sound. The world? My fans, my label. They expect the all-American boy. Not this. He gestured vaguely at himself, as if his truth were a stain. Eli's heart ached, recognizing the fear he'd once carried. They'll love you or they won't, Eli said. But you'll be free, and that's worth more than any spotlight. They sat by the lake, talking as the sun dipped low. Caleb spoke of the pressure, Pastor John's expectations, the church's grip, the fear of losing his career. Eli shared his own journey, the pain of exile, the joy of finding Noah, the slow healing of living openly. For hours, they rebuilt a bridge, word by word, memory by memory. But the world didn't wait. That evening, a gossip blog posted a grainy photo of Caleb and Eli at the lake, captioned, Country star Caleb Hart in secret meeting with a strange brother. The internet exploded. Fans speculated, trolls sneered, and Pastor John called Caleb, his voice icy through the phone. Fix this, or you're done, he said. Caleb hung up, his hands shaking, and showed Eli the post. They're going to find out, Caleb said, panic creeping into his voice. If I come out now, it's over. Eli grabbed his shoulders, forcing him to meet his gaze. It's only over if you let be. You're more than Dad's rules, more than their expectations. You're enough. Caleb's next concert was in Los Angeles, and he invited Eli and Noah to come. I want to do something, he said, his voice tentative but determined. Something real. Eli agreed, though doubt lingered. Could Caleb face the world as himself, or would he falter under the pressure? In L.A., the arena was packed, the air electric with anticipation. Caleb took the stage, his guitar slung low, his eyes scanning the crowd. Eli and Noah stood in the wings, watching as Caleb paused mid-set, the spotlight pinning him in place. This one's for someone I let down, he said, his voice steady. My brother, Eli. And it's for me, too. He launched into a new song, one he'd written that week. The lyrics were raw, unpolished, a confession of fear, love, and the courage to be true. The crowd fell silent, then erupted in cheers, some confused, others moved. Eli's eyes stung with tears as Noah squeezed his hand. For the first time, Caleb wasn't performing. He was living. Backstage, the fallout began. Trish, Caleb's manager, was furious. You just tanked your career, she snapped. But Caleb shook his head. I just saved it. Fans flooded social media, some with support, others with hate. Pastor John issued a public statement disowning Caleb, calling his actions a betrayal of faith. The words cut, but Caleb stood firm. Eli and Caleb spent the next days together, navigating the storm. Noah helped them strategize, connecting Caleb with advocacy groups who offered support. Slowly, Caleb began to see a path forward, not as the star he'd been, but as the man he wanted to be. Eli, too, felt a shift. The anger he'd carried was fading, replaced by a cautious hope. As they parted ways, Caleb hugged Eli tightly. "Thank you," he whispered, "for showing me how to be brave." Eli smiled, his heart full. "You were always brave. You just forgot for a while." The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Caleb's coming out rippled across the country music world, splitting his fan base. Some rallied behind him, sharing stories of their own struggles, while others turned away, echoing Pastor John's condemnation. But Caleb was done bending to fit their mold. He moved to San Francisco, renting a small apartment near Eli's, and began writing music that felt true, songs of love, identity, and redemption. Eli and Noah helped Caleb navigate his new reality. They introduced him to their community, a patchwork of artists, activists, and dreamers who embraced him without judgment. For the first time, Caleb felt seen, not as a star, but as himself. He and Eli rebuilt their bond, spending evenings by the lake, laughing over old memories and making new ones. Noah, ever the anchor, reminded them both to take it slow, to let healing unfold in its own time. But the past wasn't done with them. Pastor John launched a campaign against Caleb, using his pulpit to paint his sons as lost souls. The church organized protests at Caleb's smaller gigs, their signs branding him a sinner. Eli felt the old wounds reopen, but Caleb faced the hate head-on, performing with a fire that silenced the crowd. His new songs, raw and honest, found a new audience, people who saw their own struggles in his words. One night, after a show, a letter arrived from their mother, Clara. It was short, written in her careful handwriting. "I've been wrong. I'm trying to understand. Can we talk?" Eli and Caleb read it together, their emotions a tangle of hope and skepticism. "She's still under Dad's thumb," Eli said, wary. Caleb nodded but clutched the letter. "Maybe she's trying. Maybe that's enough for now." They met Clara at a quiet diner outside Willow Creek, a neutral ground. She looked older, her eyes heavy with regret. "I failed you both," she said, her voice trembling. "I let your father's anger become mine. But I see you now and I'm proud." Tears fell as she reached for their hands, and for the first time in years, Eli felt a flicker of the mother he'd loved. Pastor John never relented, but Clara's change gave Eli and Caleb strength. They began to redefine family, not as the one they'd lost, but as the one they were building. Caleb's music evolved, blending country with soul, earning him a smaller but fiercely loyal following. Eli, inspired by Caleb's courage, started a blog, sharing their story to help others in small towns like Willow Creek. Noah's paintings, vibrant with color, hung in their shared apartment, a testament to the life they'd created. One evening, by the same lake where they'd reunited, Caleb played a new song for Eli and Noah. It was a ballad, soft and haunting, about two brothers who lost their way but found each other again. As the final notes faded, Eli looked at Caleb, their faces mirrored under the stars. "We made it," Eli said, his voice thick. Caleb smiled, his hand finding Eli's. "Yeah, we did." Their journey wasn't over. The world still had its claws, and not every wound would heal. But standing together, with Noah by their side, they knew they could face it. They were twins, born as one, divided by shame, and reunited by love, a love that was stronger than any brand, any stage, any sermon. It was a love that remade them, not as stars or outcasts, but as brothers, whole and free.